work, then you hate it. Awesome. Hey guys, how's it going? Hopefully this works this time. Hi, I'm Dr. Emily from The Joy of Coding, and we are super, super excited today to have Mo with us. Yes, this is working. Very excited to have you guys online. Oh, so good. So if you're watching us live in the Facebook group, please don't hesitate to post in the chat. We'd love to hear your questions. I can't wait to see them. So we've got an awesome guest today. So Mo is one of our interns inside the Joy of Coding Academy. So if you don't know, the Joy of Coding Academy helps problem solvers become six-figure software developers in 6 months. And we offer guaranteed internship experiences because we know that hands-on experience of actually building and delivering software that works to a client who's paying us for it is how you get those six-figure jobs, because you're already doing the work of a six-figure software developer. And so Mo is coming to us, and he's in a really unique position because Mo is actually a computer science student at Drew University, which I just retired from. And so I really work to support my students however they come into my sphere. And so I offered Mo an opportunity as an intern this summer, and we're so grateful that he took us up on that. But he has this really unique perspective of, even if you're in a university setting working on delivering software to actual clients, because that's how I ran it at the university, he's still getting an experience he would have never gotten in the university setting, no matter how much the professor is pushing the students to get out there and do real world things. That's just something different when there's money exchange in hands. And so we had a huge breakthrough this week. I'm not going to steal Mo's story, but there was an amazing breakthrough this week. And I just wanted to share it all so you guys can see what it's like to be in an internship, inside the Joy of Coding Academy, and what that experience can look like. So Mo, are you willing to share just a little bit about yourself and what kind of learning insights did you have this week on this experience?
Oh, okay. I'll start with an introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Mo. I'm a software engineering student at Drew University, like Dr. Hill mentioned. I had her for both data structures and the software engineering course, where she mentioned we worked with the client and all of that. I was primarily a front-end developer. Never touched anything besides UI, user interface, and website design, stuff like that. And I got the really nice experience when I got the push from Dr. Hill to, can you please integrate Stripe for me and work as a full stack developer? I did in fact work as a full stack developer. Now keep in mind, I did touch Python for data structures, but before this, I'm very rusty in Python, honestly. A lot of the data structures, I would do it in JavaScript and then go translate my work into Python, if that makes sense. But I'm actually really glad I listened and went in for it. It did take about 3 to 4 weeks to implement Stripe, because in general, it's a very tough process dealing with payments, and you can't really leave room for error because you're dealing with people's sensitive private information. And I'm just really excited because after the 4 weeks we got it working, even like Dr. Hill mentioned, we had an experience with an all-nighter, but it's awesome. I had a lot of fun because I was debugging. I wasn't alone, so that's really cool. I wasn't just sitting there bored. I was debugging with Dr. Hill and my fellow colleague, David Bobe, amazing software engineer, by the way. It's just overall a really fun experience. It was a lot, working from front end to set up the payment portal, for the user to pay from, to the back end where I'm setting up the products and test keys, live keys, all of that. It was definitely an interesting experience.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing, Mo. And just to kind of help everybody see, for those of you that aren't really, I don't know if everybody's heard of the word Stripe before, so just to take it up a level. So what Mo did is, we deliver software predominantly to startups. So companies that are just getting started, we get to build them from scratch. And so Mo was working on implementing the payment processing. All right. So now, just to think about this for a second, how many interns do you know that get to work on something so critical to the client's infrastructure, right? For an actual software project. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in academia, in university. It doesn't happen at boot camps. It doesn't even happen at other tech companies, to be honest, because who's going to put their bread and butter flagship software in the hands of an untrained intern that is paid or partially unpaid or partially paid? They're not going to do it. You're not going to get that experience. And that's what made this experience so different for Mo, was because we actually handed him an opportunity to be responsible for it. So inside the Joy of Coding, we say guaranteed internship. It's actually on a project where 100% of the code is written by the interns. We have six-figure software developers mentors. And I know I'm going to ask Mo about this next. We have these six-figure software developers whose day job is delivering software. They get paid, hundreds of dollars an hour, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They've got tons of experience. They're the mentors. Their job is not to deliver the software. Their job is to mentor our interns and show them what the latest skills and tools are so they can solve their problems effectively. And so, Mo, I wanted to ask a little bit and dive in a little deeper. So you had this space. It took about a month because payment integration, you can't take credit cards yourself. You have to integrate with something called an API. If you've never heard of that before, no worries. It's just a means for us to access code that other people wrote. So there's some third-party website that processes the payments. We just have to hook in to their space. But because it's relating to money and credit cards, right, this is like very important in terms of security, right? You want to do it right. There's a lot that could go wrong. And so it's very unusual for someone who's just learning to have that opportunity to learn with that kind of integration. And so, Mo, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to that process of having, we have some senior software developers on staff who serve as coaches. They're available weekly for hourly Q&As like this, where there's a dialogue to all of our students. So we have Adam, we have Kyler. Can you speak a little bit about that experience and how that helped you move forward on implementing this feature?
Sure, not a problem. In all honesty, I'm really thankful, like even just being an intern. So thank you again, Dr. Hill. I got to meet with Coach Kyler Johnson and Adam, I believe his last name is Fanslow.
Yes.
Yes, they're both amazing software developers. Definitely have some years under their belt now. Now being a student who's never worked, like I said earlier, back end and relatively new even to this point, I don't think I would have honestly had it without them. Like I know for sure we would have had it down, it's just with Dr. Hill, managing everything and having to do this, which she's doing an amazing job at that. I'm not gonna lie, it's tough. It would have been definitely tough just doing it all on my own, despite the fact that I could eventually figure it out. I would need the time. They're awesome. I would meet with Adam on Monday, and he would help me out with, he's very experienced, very good in Python, by the way, Django, the whole backend, service. He would help me with that. We had some issues at first with the API calls, like Dr. Hill mentioned earlier. There was, you're connecting to a third-party software, which in turn, provides a secure connection where nothing can go wrong, just in case, since you're dealing with sensitive info. And he helped me out with that. He was very helpful, very knowledgeable. And then there was Coach Kyler, who helped me with CSRF and CORS. If you're wondering what CORS is, basically it's like an internet protective service, if that makes sense in a way, because they want to make sure you're not a malicious hacker or anyone malicious with the intent of causing damage. So you have to make sure you're on the white list to be allowed to proceed. And, Coach Kyler was helping me out with that. We whitelisted our domain, made sure to go, basically our domain is our website, allowing us to go into what we're trying to do. And, basically we're on the checklist, when they're like, you're not on the list. No, we were on the list. We went through, we were good to go. And aside from that, he helped me with CSRF tokens. Now, tokens are very essential because you're creating an instance of which you're signing into something or you're allowed to be somewhere, just like basically, you have an appointment for a set time. The token gives you the appointment for I believe about 5 minutes. and then it expires, allowing for security purposes, allowing you to log in, and then you get a new token. So yeah, they were both extremely helpful with that. I'm explaining it the way they explained it, and probably not as good. I'm learning. But yeah, no, it was amazing. I learned so much from them, and I'm just very thankful, because if you're gonna go anywhere else, than Joy of Coding, you're paying much, much more for such experienced developers' times. Trust me, I know.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Oh, I love that. And so, and I know with the senior software developer coaches that we have, that you have access to, for instance, I remember one of the breakthroughs you were super excited about that happened about a week before we finished delivery, where you had worked with Coach Kyler and he showed you some of the industry standard tools and tricks that he uses. So for example, as intern might come into a Q&A and say, hey, I have this bug, and the senior developer, they probably don't know the answer, to be honest. As programmers, we get paid to learn. It's one of the awesome things about being a software developer. And so the senior developers, they probably don't know the answer either, which is cool, because okay, it's not just you, right? Even the senior software devs don't know right off the bat, but they have this knowledge and the framework and the process down that they would use to solve that problem. And so I remember, Mo, you had mentioned that you went in on a Wednesday and you got help from Coach Kyler, and he showed you a way to walk through a problem and find a solution. And then you said that the breakthrough was the next night when you got to apply it and solve a new bug on your own. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I remember I was working with, like I said, Coach Kyler on API calls, right, as well. And there was an issue going on where we were making the call to the API and it was succeeding, but then there was a post that we were trying to do, and the post was not actually going through. Well, it was in a sense, but what was happening is it wasn't going through in Django's liking, in Python's liking. So we had to do something called serializing it, I believe, to translate it into something that Python or Django can understand. So I remember Coach Fowler was teaching me how since we're dealing with JavaScript or React on the front end, we would need to turn it from JSON into something, serializing it into something that Django would understand. So the specific thing we did was JSON.stringify. So it's basically turning it from JSON into a string that then turns it into something that Django specifically understands. And then the next, that was giving me an initial, when I was working with Coach Kyler, that was giving me an initial, I believe, error 501, I believe. Yes, something like this. And the next night I got something very similar. I had I believe a 503. And when I applied the same issue, because it was Django was telling me unidentified or unknown type, I was like, now I remember why this happened. And I applied that same initial info that I understood the night before to fixing it.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. And so, Mo, just for people's knowledge, had you ever heard of serializers before that moment, like before talking to Coach Kyler about it?
Honestly, I would not have known what the only cereal I know is probably the breakfast item, but
I love it. Frosted Flakes, right? I love it. So good. And so you didn't know anything about serializers. You talked to Coach Kyler, he walked you through, and the next night, literally the next night, you're using that knowledge, you're taking action on it and using it to help guide you in your process to move forward.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. Oh, so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so then we probably want to talk a little bit about the end, the end of the line, because this was a situation Mo had mentioned earlier on, like all-nighter. It wasn't a true all-nighter. I mean, at 3 a.m. I mean, it's late, but it's not technical.
Yeah.
I do prefer to go to bed before 2 a.m. I'll admit. But it blew me away, this experience, because at the end of the day, right, we're a small software company delivering working software to startups, as in our software arm. And I know at the end of the day, right, like the responsibility lies, with me or with the other, members of staff. And so we almost got it working. We had like a big chunk of it done, but we didn't have it totally finished. We're working on the process to fix that, because this was successful. We delivered the client what they were looking for, but we did have to stay up late. So there was a little bit of failure there. So we're gonna fine tune that. We do a post-mortem analysis, figure out what we need to change in the process to make sure that's not happening in the future. But what blew me away was that Mo, and he had mentioned Bobe, who's one of our junior developers on staff inside the software project. They both voluntarily stayed on, right? Like, I did not ask this of them. I was just blown away by their dedication because they wanted to see this through and figure it out. So the three of us had this amazing team coding session in the wee hours of the morning to get this working. Oh my goodness. But we pushed through and we got it there. And so I don't know, Mo, if you have any other, anything else you'd like to share about that experience and delivering it to the client, how it might be different from what you've done before in projects and experienced?
I'm gonna be honest, first of all, yeah, what I mean by all-nighter is anything where I have to stay up past my own bedtime. That's just me in general. I will over-exaggerate it a little bit, honestly. I didn't genuinely mean the whole night. But I really enjoyed how I wasn't alone. I had dedicated, obviously Dr. Hill, very dedicated, and my other team member, David Bobe, very, very dedicated as well. He stuck with me the whole day. And, we all have our lives, but we still put, important things first. And we made sure to get done what we agreed on. And I was very happy, with that whole initial experience. And if I'm going to be honest, as a whole, if companies like Amazon also have for their high-end software developers, where they're, woken up in the middle of the night to do things, something goes wrong, which is very normal in code, by the way. You're not always going to get what you want, and you're not always going to get the rest that you want. But the most important thing is you're delivering what you promised to deliver. And we did exactly that. I was very happy the whole process. I wouldn't have done it any other way. And to be honest with you, I think it's a learning experience. I think everything you go through is definitely going to stick with you no matter what, especially in the software space. And once you get stuck with one thing, you usually don't get stuck with it again, if that makes sense. It's just you've learned how to go through it. So that initial hardship turns into ease in the future.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And that is so true that both, how you mentioned in production level software systems, oftentimes they'll have people on call. So it'll be software developers and IT support that's on staff on call, just like hospitals and fire stations and ambulance corps have on call where you have to be there all night. We have the same thing when you're delivering software at scale that's always available on the internet. So in this case, again, it wasn't a total all-nighter and we prefer to avoid it in the future. That's not the way we want to continue. But we are doing something really, really unique here because the interns in our space for our projects, they're first-class citizens. Like, they are the stars. They are the ones who are the hands of the code, and the six-figure software developer mentor coaches, they sit back and they support. And so you really get, like, you got this amazing learning experience that I don't think you would find in a place even like Amazon, right? Like, because even though they do train their interns, they're not going to let them have this kind of access. So I love that. You're so right. There was one other thing you mentioned that I was going to touch on, but now I think it's gone. I lost it. But oh man, just that learning experience, the camaraderie, right? Like, these are all parts of being on a team. And so I'm so glad that worked for you. One question I did have was, because you're in this really unique space, because most students that come into the Joy of Coding Academy go through the similar learning experiences that you went through, because Mo was my student at the university, so I use very similar materials in both places. So you're almost like in this unique position where you've experienced working on a client project in a university setting versus working on it in a paid, technical software startup kind of place. Do you have any, comparisons or contrasts? Like, can you kind of help us see the difference between what it's like. And again, in the university, you were actually working for a professional client, someone who was acting in their professional capacity on a student team. They weren't paying, but everything else was the same. It was just in the university space. There were no mentors other than me to help support that process. And versus inside the Joy of Coding Academy, can you help people see, like, even if it's as best as the university could provide, like it may be a little bit different? Like, what do you think is different between those experiences?
If I'm being completely honest, university, when we had the initial experience, it was great because I dove into a class that you're supposed to be taking as a junior and a senior. I dove into that head first, as a sophomore, and that was definitely a little tough at first. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Very nerve-wracking. I remember considering dropping the course a few times from how afraid I was of that
I
class.
didn't know that.
No. And that wasn't even because of you, Dr. Hill, honestly. I was so nervous about what was gonna happen. And am I gonna be able to deliver to the client? And oh my God, am I gonna end up failing this class? That didn't happen. Essentially what ended up happening, actually, I pulled off an A in the class. I'm very happy with that. I worked very hard. Me and my team did an entire site, which we then later converted. It was originally a marketplace for Drew University students, but we never got the grant or the stamp of approval to continue from the school. So what we did was we ended up scrapping that it was going to be for Drew and taking it and selling the marketplace idea and site to another. Well, we didn't sell it, but you get what I mean. Um, yeah, so we had an awesome client, Kyle. He was very, very helpful in terms of understanding and knowing what to expect from software students. Now, not every client is like this. We did have an enjoyable experience. We did also have some times where I genuinely mean it, we pulled all-nighters. This is not a joke this time. We actually had one time where we had Dr. Hill at, I think her class was at 10 in the morning. Yeah, we literally were up until like 8, 2 hours of sleep straight into the class. Yeah, there's those times, but it's not the same because when we'd get stuck, there wasn't that help like in Joy of Coding. There wasn't those mentors. There wasn't that wonderful team that's always on 24/7. I did have a wonderful team, honestly, in Drew. The guys, especially I remember one of them, Joey. He was a very, very helpful guy. He taught me a lot, honestly. He was a senior, I was a sophomore at the time. And yeah, it was overall very nice, but it's not the same. And in the sense that Joy of Coding actually provides you with so much useful information, useful mentors. They'll be by you, while you're getting, if you're stuck, if you need help. And the nice thing is you don't even have to book any appointments. They're already designated there. Like, just go join. You know, it's just as easy as that. I love
it.
that.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much, Bo. That's great. I love that contrast because I really was trying to push the university setting as far as I could. So my mission and my goal in life, because it took me forever to learn how to code, I'll be honest, it took me 6 years. It was so long. And I knew once I figured it out that like it didn't need to take that long. And so I made it my mission to teach anybody how to program and become a 6-figure software developer. And so I thought university is where I needed to do that. And so I pushed. And I pushed that system to the limit until I could push it no further. And I was like, I can't go further here, but I know I can do better. So Mo's getting to see both sides because he saw the old system where I pushed it as far as I could, giving students hands-on experience, graduating 6-figure developers left and right. And I realized that it doesn't need to be in the university system anymore. It can happen faster, quicker, more like, and less expensively for the student in terms of time and money outside of the university. And so that's how the Joy of Coding was born. And now I realized, the next step was, to train 6-figure software developers, we need them operating as 6-figure software developers, as Mo just did, implementing payment processing for an actual paying client. And that just, the amount of experience that comes in with that we just didn't see, that Mo didn't see, as part of his university experience. It's just amazing because even though he already went through the university version, he's still learning more. He's still going deeper. Basically, in a month, he became a full stack developer. Is that correct, Mo?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From front end to back end, like that's amazing. I mean, you think of how long that would take in another setting, right? But when you're doing it on the job training, when you're actually hands-on experiencing it, it really puts it over the top. And so that's why I created the software company. It wasn't like I created a software company and then I, was training people. No, I was training people. And then I realized, oh, we need a software company to finish training them. Like I literally created a software company because I knew it was what we needed to train people better, to train them to become six-figure software developers better and faster. So thank you so much, Mo, for that insight in the process and noting the differences, because there wasn't the same ability to support as supportive as I was. And I could be when I had so many teams in the classroom working on so many different projects. Like there was just no way. They had to set up office hour appointments. Like we had classes, but the classes were focused differently. Now it's like all about the project, all about the software development skills all the time. And so I just love that we get to focus there. And I'm glad that that's, your experience, that you're having that as well. Awesome. Awesome. So I am trying to keep an eye on the Facebook group. If anyone's watching live and has questions, please post them in there. But I think, so any questions from the room? I think Mo had an amazing experience. Thank you so much for sharing it, Mo. I love this. It really helped me see as well, just the value of what we're creating here. And just, when you go to apply for jobs, it's going to be like your skills are in demand because your portfolio is live on the internet. Hey, I built this payment processor, and you can have a dialogue with the interviewer about how you did it and how the workflow is set up. Like you're clearly the six-figure software developer they're looking for. And here's the proof, right? Anyone can say they know JavaScript. Anyone can say they know React, but do you really know how to use it to actually deliver something to a client? You've done that, right? You could probably get on the job tomorrow if you didn't, if you weren't a student still, you didn't want your degree. So
honestly, again, like I'm very, very thankful for the opportunity. Definitely would not have gotten this experience wherever. So, I learned a lot, very happy with that. And just to be, that kid who was kind of more worried about, am I going to be able to do this? I think I definitely have a career in software, and I'm very happy that I got to do this internship this summer.
So great. Thank you. I love that. Love that. And just to let you know, full disclosure, so because Mo knows me from the university, he still calls me Dr. Hill. In the Joy of Coding group, I'm Dr. Emily. No worries. So if you're noticing a discrepancy there, that's just what that's from. Old habits die hard, right? And if you do have questions about the coaches that Mo and I were mentioning, Coach Kyler and Coach Adam, I can try and post the links after the live is over, but I have interviews with them inside the Joy of Coding group under guides. I'm happy to link to those. And they're in the groups. If you have questions, like, please don't hesitate to tag them, and ask questions about it. They're awesome. All of our mentors are amazing. They're super motivated to give back. And that's intentional too, right? Like we're really trying to build a supportive mentoring environment. So you get to do the work yourself, but with support, right? With people to help guide you on that path. So you're not doing it alone, right? We're doing it together. I think that was probably one of the big takeaways from Mo's experience, was that we're doing it together. We're getting there all together. I love that. So we have a couple folks in the room. Do you guys have any questions for Mo about his experience or about the Joy of Coding, anything at all?
Yeah, I got a question. Hey, so
Yeah,
Mo, what would you say, like, before this experience, how much knowledge did you have about the software development process overall?
Nice.
I'm gonna
Good
be,
question.
well, first of all, Ollie, nice to meet you.
Likewise.
I had no experience, honestly. If I'm gonna be honest with you, no experience whatsoever. I'm just gonna be real. I walked in, I knew HTML. I learned HTML5 as the first programming language. It's not really like programming, it's more displaying
Right.
on a web page. Right. And then I learned JavaScript, right? and I went and started learning React for my university project. I didn't know anything walking into Joy of Coding for what I was talking about, Stripe integration, nothing at all. I was very nervous. I thought that I was likely gonna end up needing to give the task to someone else, but I got it working, and it's a process. Anyone could do it. All you have to do is put your mind to it and honestly attend the training sessions. Do your own training on the side, like literally there's great resources out there, W3 schools, freecodecamp.org, all these places will get you. Stack Overflow, it's amazing. You Google the problem you're getting in the console, or and you get your answer and you implement that, even though it's completely different code and it's something else someone was working on. You're seeing what's going on and how it could relate to the problem you're trying to solve.
Got you. That's pretty cool.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks. Great question, Ollie. So good. And yeah, what Mo was talking to with the training materials is that's one of the things that we do inside the Joy of Coding Academy is we teach the fundamentals first to have that firm foundation. And that's very lockstep where we hand you the materials that you need to try and learn smarter, not harder, and kind of fast track you through. But then once we hit the internship phase, our goal is for you to be self-sufficient. As you can hear, like Mo is a great example of that. Like, he went to a session with Kyler, literally the next day he was solving his own bug using those same techniques that he learned the day before. Like, it wasn't like it took weeks, it was like the day before. And so that's one of the things we do is in the internship phase, because everybody's working on different features, different functionality, potentially different projects. We start to support you in identifying your own learning resources, whether that's W3 schools, Stack Overflow, Google. Like, we're learning what are the tools of the trade that the actual software developer does when they're out of the school setting, right? When they don't have everybody there, because I view, my goal in every student I take on is not just to help them get that first job, which obviously is the focus, but really I'm trying to prepare all of our students for a 20-year career. So what do we need to focus on? What skills do we need so that you're recession proof, right? It doesn't matter, you're future proof. It doesn't matter how many technologies change. You have the fundamental building blocks that you need to thrive, and you know how to find what you need to solve the problem, right? Like, that's the true superpower, is when you know whatever problem you have, doesn't matter what the solution is, you have the confidence in yourself and your process that you're going to get there. And so that's what we're trying to help support all of our students with. Awesome. Awesome. Great experience. Great question, Ollie. Love it. Other questions? Do you guys have any other questions for Mo on his experience with and breakthroughs with the internship last week? Awesome. Joe or Alyssa or Kristen? No, we're good. Awesome. Just listening. Love it. Thanks, guys. Ollie, do you have any other follow-up questions?
Not at this time. I'm actually looking forward to our consultation because I guess for a person like myself who has kind of somewhat knowledge from a boot camp that I took, it's
Nice.
more so trying to, like the name of your program is The Joys of Coding. It's what I'm trying to find is the joy in coding. The boot camp did not show me the joy of coding, so I'm trying to see how that can be reversed.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I understand. I feel it. So even though I got 3 computer science degrees, I'm still self-taught, which is why I went to academia to try and fix the system that was so broken for me. But you're not the first student to come through and report back from a boot camp and say, I got all this knowledge and I have no idea how to put it together to actually do things and accomplish something in the world, right? And so that is really our focus. Like, why learn to code if you can't have an impact, if you can't actually put that into the world, let people use it and do things. So awesome. Super excited to hear. Yeah, for anyone that's listening, if you do have experience already, what I often find is the students that come in are fast tracked because they have the background knowledge. What they're missing usually is just the framing of how to put it together and organize it so you can use it and leverage it to solve problems. So usually that experience is much more fast tracked. So if that helps it. Awesome. Thank you so much. These are awesome questions. Sorry, Mo, were you going to say something?
I was going to say in regards to Ollie's situation, if I can touch base, you definitely won't see the joy of coding from you know, the boot camps and stuff, because I myself also had, you know, the boot camp experience and all of that before. The only
Oh,
thing
cool.
is they teach you how to program correct, but here's the only thing. Do you honestly know? And I'm not saying this specifically applies to you in this case, Ali, but this is just a question in general a developer needs to ask himself or herself. You know, do you honestly know what's going on? And do you like understand what's going on in front of you? You know, because anyone could just sit there and type, you know, type out the, you know, the code, but do you know what's going on in the code? In the case you run into an error, you fix that issue or implement a new tactic to get past that issue, you know? That's what changed my eyes and what I mean when I say I came in with like zero knowledge into joy of coding, because I knew how to code and I understood what like coding, but that way of thinking, like for example CSRF, cores, all of that, and how to bypass those issues with those, you know, senior devs, you know, Kyler and Adam, even Bobe, they all helped me. They showed me the experience they got over the years and helped me apply it to my situation now. And it sticks with you, like I said, so you're gonna, it does change you for the better, I promise.
Awesome, awesome. I think another question I kind of had as well is because the hot coding language right now is Python, and someone had mentioned to me about data structures and algorithms. Are these things that are also presented to you guys, and you guys are helped with, or?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, and
Awesome.
here, Joe, Mo, I'll jump in just a minute because Mo experienced it in the formal data structures and algorithms class in the university. So I'll just say how it translates over for those. And actually, Alyssa's in the middle of it, and Joe's in the beginning phases, and Alyssa's in the middle of the data structure section.
Going
Nice.
day
Yes.
one module.
Sorry,
Oh,
Joe, what was
nice.
that?
Just starting day one modules in the data and algorithms.
Love
Awesome,
it.
awesome.
So good. So good. I hadn't heard that. Yes. I love that win. And I know Alyssa's in project 3. So what we have is we have a 2-module sequence where the first module, you probably would eat through that. Like someone who's experienced and been through boot camp usually moves through really, really quickly. I know Joe had some experience, right? So you'd say module 1 was pretty straightforward and quick moving for you.
Yep.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. And that's where we cover like those 7 basics, those fundamentals. So we're rock solid. And like going back to what Mo had said, you know, understanding the fundamentals, understanding what's happening so that you know enough to be able to debug effectively, because bugs are a fact of life. We're not going to get away. We're always going to have bugs, but do we have that process that we can actually solve them? And you can change your process so that bugs become less of a showstopper and more just like a speed bump instead of like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on. And so we build that foundation module 1 that usually takes about a month or so. And then in module 2, we do the data structures and algorithms, because that's also to help us deepen our problem solving skills. So when we come across a challenge, we have a framework for how do we solve these coding problems, but also because tech interviews, for those of you that don't know, a tech interview is one of the standard interview components for getting a job as a software developer, in addition to a regular interview. And those questions always come from data structures and algorithms. So there's 2 reasons why we're doing it. But we have that in the trainings in advance before you hit the internship. That's kind of our setup process where everybody goes through that. And then we get on the internship and everybody has different experiences based on where they're trying to go.
Awesome, awesome. I like that.
Cool. Love it. Love it. So, so good. And I think one of the things, let's see. Oh, I wanted to touch on this, Mo, because I love that you brought this up. Like, and I didn't even know you had been at a boot camp. So you've been to everything. You like, you could compare and contrast all these experiences. I love it. I had no idea. That's amazing. But would you say that what you're getting inside the Joy of Coding Academy's framework is really that process of how does a 6-figure developer think and solve and code?
100%. And yeah, I've been in a boot camp. It was one of those free online YouTube boot,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
and that was way, way back into the beginning when my friend first introduced me to HTML5. You know, so I sat there to myself. Yeah, I can understand. HTML is pretty self-explanatory for the most part. You'll understand it. It's really when you dive into JavaScript or a more deep language where you start to see, I really need to understand what I'm doing here. And I'm still learning this myself, by the way. I'm by no means an expert yet. Hopefully down the line, absolutely. But I'm by no means an expert, and I'll never say that I'm an expert because I've been told by devs like Coach Kyler and Adam that we're still learning. This is the beauty of the trade. We're still learning. We don't ever stop learning, and there's always something new. You think you know something, and there's someone who knows more, and someone you can learn from. That's just the truth. It's crazy, and I love that. So the free code camp thing, the free boot camp, the coding boot camp, taught me how to code essentially, but I didn't enjoy it in the sense that I didn't know what was going on. And then I went to, Drew University. I went through Drew University's first 2 years of, their software track. Again, the professors just they do a great job. Don't get me wrong. It's just that they have a hard time themselves managing such usually decently, sized classes. And on top of that, they're given, I'm pretty sure, the material. I don't know if they make it up themselves. But Dr. Hill always had that specific way of teaching it, which I really enjoyed, I'm not gonna lie, I remember when I was the first time in her class, I was like, oh man, paper. I hate coding on paper. And then I was like, okay, I understand why. It's because you need to know what's going on, and then you can translate that to work on the computer. And that's what had me so intrigued. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is my professor. I know who she is. I can get an internship this summer. Okay, and let's see what it's all about. I just walked in, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff she asks me to do, like any normal intern would. No, little did I know there's the extra help sessions. Little did I know there's the senior and junior devs. Little did I know that I was going to become a dual functional full stack developer. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really happy because I definitely didn't have the confidence that I have now in my coding and programming skills, and it just goes to show that you really can do anything, just that you put your time and energy into it. And also joining Dr. Hill's, whether you're going to join it as a student or as an intern down the line, just know that no matter what you learn in these, you also have to constantly program and code on your free time. You have to honestly dedicate time, because if you don't dedicate time, practice in everything, it makes perfect. And if you don't practice, you're essentially just relying on, specific short frames of time. You need to, whenever you can, sit behind your screen, code, try to understand what's going on, like I mentioned. It will really help you a lot down the line.
Nice. Awesome. So good. And I love that. A couple of things I just pulled out of Mo, what you're saying. I love the idea of showing up and doing the work. You're absolutely right. The difference between the students that fast track through and the students that get stalled is they show up and they do the work, even if it's, if it feels like it's not moving forward. Our recommended minimum is 2 hours a day, about 10 to 15 hours a week. If you could do more, awesome. You can make faster progress, but that's our kind of minimum for that 6-month experience that we look for. I love, Mo, that this experience gave you confidence, that you had the adventurous spirit to actually commit to doing something you weren't even sure you could succeed at. So awesome for you. That's amazing. And then you didn't have the confidence, but you did it anyways. Right? The system worked. It got you through where you're trying to go. I love that you said you're not an expert yet, because you can see it. You can see the path. I love that. And just, knowing the whys behind things. I think, Bo had mentioned coding on paper. We don't code on paper anymore in the virtual environment, post-COVID world, but we have that same skill set of trying to read and predict. It might just be digital paper now, like on an iPad or something else. But so good. That level, that depth of knowledge and the fundamentals, right? Making sure you have that down so that when you see error messages or coding results coming at you to actually understand like what could have caused them, so you can dive in and figure out where the error is. So I just love that. And at the end of the day, Ollie, you had mentioned losing some of the joy of coding in your experience. And so, yeah, we're named Joy of Coding for a reason, because it's fun to create stuff. And even when we break stuff and we're banging our head against the wall, I don't know, Mo, but like, I find it really satisfying. Like, yeah, we didn't know what was going on and we were up late, but we were up late together and we figured it out. And then there's the payoff.
Yeah, no, it was honestly very fun. I'm not gonna even lie. We were up late, and I would have been even funnier had I not been extremely groggy from the night before. Like,
I know. Mo had been pushing the
yeah,
night before too.
a lot. So 3 hours of sleep the night before, and then combine that with like, I don't know, 5 cups of coffee. It doesn't really end well towards the night.
Yeah, exactly. But we did it and we got it. And now we're gonna analyze what caused us to stay up so late and address that. So so it's prevented in the future.
Honestly,
Yep.
And honestly, the next day, the only bugs we had pretty much delivered on our promise. The only bugs that we had was, it was just a simple issue of resizing of the page for I believe 1 or 2 pages, Yeah. And one of them was actually usable. It just looked a little crunch.
Yeah.
We did fix that. The other one though, yeah, we needed to fix that. Dr. Hill helped tremendously in that one, honestly. But it wasn't anything that bad. I'm glad it was a pretty quick fix, and she had told the client, we're gonna get it done by tonight. She got it done. No questions asked. So the client overall was very happy with what we did. And I was very happy because I love the feedback of, oh, you actually did it. You actually got it working. And this is what I think. The beauty of running into all those errors is when you actually finally figure it out, you're so happy. It's like this other feeling that you've never felt before. Beyond anything else, that I figured this thing out. And I genuinely mean that. I love like programming it onto a different degree now. And this is coming from someone who was going to become a doctor.
I love that. I love that. Ollie, did you have something to add?
Yeah, that's quite a career change right there, actually. Yeah. Right now, I'm currently in a sales industry, and it's a roller coaster, to say the least. And you look for something that's more stable and more rewarding and more that has longevity to it. So that's the reason why initially we looked into coding, and I think the creative side of it is kind of what I really love. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing that most people don't know. I love that you brought that up. Most people don't know that coding is both an art and a science, right? Like the science comes in that process, right? Like, okay, we do this, we do this, we do this. But the art is, well, there's a lot of different ways you could achieve those outcomes, right? So how do I know if it should be this way or that way? What are the kind of things I look for to choose between going this path or that path? And so that's something that we look into a lot. And that's why that you don't have to be a math whiz to be a good coder, right? Like, in fact, some of the amazing software that we use every day was written by English majors, right? Who like really came at it from a language perspective. So for musicians, like every field has the seeds of thinking to help you become a good programmer. So it doesn't matter like where you are, where you're from, like where you're coming from, for sure. Oh, I love this. So good. I love this conversation around, how do we become 6-figure developers, and how do you get that confidence, erode self-doubt, even though you have it, you keep going, and why we keep coming back for more, why it's joyful is because when you get it, right, it could. And so I think what we're really trying to learn is how to let it not be quite so painful when we don't know. I know that was something I struggled with. Like I would get mad at myself for not getting it. I would bang and be like, ah! And then I would get mad at the problem, which doesn't help me solve it. but like getting comfortable with that not knowing. And that was really the breakthrough that clicked for me, and that I try to help foster each of my students through that breakthrough, is that it's okay not to know it, but having the confidence in yourself and your process that it doesn't matter what comes your way, you're going to be able to figure it out. So that's my big takeaway message. Mo.
Trust me, guys, screaming at the screen is not going to help you if you don't know what's going on.
I know. I feel good.
It does. At times it really does. But the only thing is, sometimes get up, take a break for like 5, 10, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever it may be. Go smell some fresh air outside. Grab a coffee if you need to, if you have that headache, you know, and you'll get it. You'll get it. Trust me, it's just patience. And the thing, what I love about coding is it taught me patience because I was not patient at all, ever. And, you know, always relied on the comfort zone. Oh, I know React. Oh, please, Dr. Hill, let me work in React. No, no, no. Time to step out of your comfort zone and go learn in something much more.
Yeah, I'm so amazing. And look what you accomplished. It's amazing. I'm so excited for your experience, Mo. Thank you so much for sharing it. And thank you everybody for all your awesome questions. It was great. If you're watching in the Facebook group, you know, later, please don't hesitate to throw down a question. We're happy to answer it. Everybody's in the group. We can continue the dialogue offline later in the chat. We just love this. So again, if you have any questions about becoming a six-figure software developer, how to fast track your learning, please pop it in the group. We'd love to answer it. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys soon. All right. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you all of you at some point this week later on. Awesome. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Emily. Take